Do you remember ritual creepypastas? I'm sure they're still around, but they were popular back in the day. I'm sure if you were in creepy story circles in the late 2000s, early 2010s, you will know what I'm talking about. Most of them were terrible. I don't know why they got so popular. I guess the format was easy to copy. One of the fun offshoots of these stories were people recounting their experiences of attempting these rituals, trying to make contact with anything paranormal. If they were honest, nothing ever happened. They wasted an evening sitting in a dark room, waiting for a ghost that never existed to show up. If they weren't being honest, they would regale anyone who listened about how they truly made contact with something, showcasing proof in the form of claw marks, or knowledge of future events that never came to be. It was all fake, and everyone knew it, but it was fun. There was one particular ritual, creepy, that I am desperately looking for that got popular on X for a few weeks and then completely vanished. It spanned multiple posts and included images and diagrams on how to precisely perform the ritual. It was called Drive to Find or something like that, and there was a good bit more effort put into it than most other pastas of the same type. The author of the thread beautifully answered questions in their initial thread, clarifying confusing bits, and then vanished once the thread died. As usual, the original thread, along with its pictures and clarifications, were copied, which gave it more exposure and interest. This inevitably leads to people attempting the ritual. Every single person that posted about their experience explained that they tapped into something that changed them in extraordinary ways. These were different from most of the ritual attempt stories I have read. They were all filled with awe and fear. It piqued my interest. It was winter in 2009. My friend Jack had just gotten his license. He was recently gifted his dad's old shitbox camera, and he was itching to do something with his newfound freedom. We were talking over steam over what we could do. In our small town in South Carolina on a Friday night, the answer was not much. Jack's response was to just ride around and possibly see if there was a gas station that would let him buy beer. He looked a bit older than 16, but there was no way in hell he wouldn't have gotten caught. I was a year younger and still a rule follower, so the idea made me uneasy. I, as I usually did at the time, brought up my interest in creepy. Why don't we try the Drive to Find Creepypasta? What? It's this new creepypasta I read on X a few days ago. Basically, you do a bunch of shit. Then you start driving around until you find a house that doesn't exist. I'm sure it's BS, but could be fun. LOL, dude, that sounds dumb as hell. Sounds better than getting arrested for trying to get beer. And I sent him the story over Steam after that. I wasn't being serious, but I wasn't fully being not serious. Plus, this story was unique in the sense that it required to people. Most of the ritual creepypastas I read were written for individuals. I had a folder on my old PC that contained a ton of these stories, Drive to Find being one of them. I would love to find that folder again, because I can't find any evidence that this story existed. I will recount the parts that I can remember. There was a series of markings you had to write on a mirror with charcoal, and then burn a candle at the tips of each marking. This weakened the barrier between worlds, and allowed you the ability to glimpse the between sides. Once this was done, you needed to rinse the mirror off into a container, and then boil all of the water out. The small ash at the bottom of the pot would then be smeared over your eyelids. This is what gave you the sight. Once both people involved in the ritual do that, one person designates themselves the lurker, and the other becomes the seeker. The lurker's job is to blindly guide the seeker around by any means by foot, car, etc., and the seeker's job is to, simply put, seek. The seeker cannot guide themselves to their destination, as they will always feel certain they are on the right path. The lurker will not know the path, and not knowing will make it easier to find. You both have to say to the now clean mirror what your job is, along with some other important sounding nonsense to seal the deal. Once the role declarations are made, the seeker should feel this sense, that they are on the cusp of finding something, From there, the lurker guides the seeker by taking them to random spots, completely ignoring any kind of intuition or direction given by the seeker. The only way to the correct destination comes from not doing anything the seeker says. The seeker will never claim to have found the place they forced the door open by any means, and it is up to the lurker once you verify that the location has met the black void. At that point, you approach the house to enter it, the barn, what it entices, porta potty, whatever it is. You can shout a demand building or the door, and it will either grant it, pull you in, or both. Jack didn't reply back for a bit. I assumed he thought it was stupid, and was going to ghost me for the rest of the night, only returning the next day, acting like he never did. I've known Jack since the 3rd grade. We used to live on the same street for years until he and his dad moved to Eastern. We had begun growing apart for the past few years. I had become a major computer nerd and basically lived online. Jack was out getting his life started. He was going to begin applying for jobs in January. At the stern request of his dad, gaming was keeping us in touch. However, we had been heavy on Team Fortress 2 for most of 2009. To my surprise, he replied, "Well, fuck it, why not? Well, do that, and you can't complain. If I lurk us straight to a gas station, LOL, was flipping, but that's what I've come to expect from Jack. I know that his ultimate goal is going to end us up at the stop the minute, where there have been whispers of a certain employee not checking out, and then we'd be back at my place, playing TF2 or Counter-Strike while buzzed. My mom was going to be working well into the night, and I never had a dad. So my house was the perfect place to do some underage drinking. About half an hour later, Jack showed up. I had already begun getting everything put together. I had the pot on the stove, ready to roll, and had grabbed the circular hallway mirror that had been there since before I was alive. There was also something with fragrances that I can't remember. Jack had brought over an orange, and I had some bleach, among other things. We needed to create a cloying and powerful smell for this ritual. In the kitchen, we got everything set up. I began the ritual by reciting the lines on the Creepypasta page I printed out, and referenced it as I went through the steps. Jack stood there, his arms crossed, looking bemused as I went through the process. I felt a little silly, yet excited as I performed the steps. Jack never said anything, just crossed his arms and smirked. He was checked out, but he didn't make a mockery of the process. Jack was a great friend. He had no need to indulge me in this stupid little lark, but he did. I think he knew how badly I wanted to attempt one. Of these things, at least once, I was an insufferable nerd and would bring this stuff up whenever I had the chance. The end of the night in his mind was going to be the two of us drunkenly playing TF2 together. When we got to the point of placing the candle flame on the tips of the 2 markings that needed to be made, we both had to do it. We both grabbed a long candle that had also been sitting as decoration in a dusty candle holder for as long as I can remember, lit them on the stove, and each burned the tips of the charcoal markings in a very specific order. Me first, and then Jack. As we did this, I began to feel a bit strange. I felt dizzy, but had my full bearing, if that makes sense. Jack started to feel it as well. Sam and not. I feel weird, yeah man, me too. Gotta be this bleak shit is burning my eyes. Yeah, you're probably onto something. The mixture of bleach, fresh oranges, pine sol, and some other cleaners in a big bowl I had mixed. Together and placed on the counter beside us was extremely noxious. Jack had a point. We powered through the rest of the candle burning and snuffed them out. I recall there was something specific you had to do while extinguishing the flame, but cannot for the life of me remember exactly what it was. After that, I got a bottle of water, poured it on the mirror, and wiped all the smudges up with my hand. I then poured the black liquid into an already boiling pan of water we had on the stove. We went to my room to play some games while waiting for the pot to boil away. It didn't take too long. All said, this whole deal took about 45 minutes. It wasn't even 7 o'clock yet. While we were waiting, Jack got the name of the stop-in-the-net attendant that was known to have loose morals from a friend of his. I still felt odd, even after being away from the kitchen for a good few minutes. I didn't bring it up. Jack said, well, beer or not, you don't have to worry about a hangover, because that shit in the kitchen has already guaranteed a fucking headache. Did you have to make it that strong? Hey, it said, to create a powerful, noxious odor that filled the air, and recommended bleach or citrus and garlic. I was just following the thing. I don't think it's TH. A flash shot across my vision. It was thousands of glimpses of buildings along with their smells and sounds all at once. My senses, for that brief flash, felt subsumed for ages. It felt like no time and all time had passed all at once. Among the many other visions, I saw what appeared to be an old, run-down The words on the signs were all wrong. There was a smell of burning hair and blood. An image of a church that had burned down, but the doors still stood strong. A one-story family home made of brick that was completely derelict and sad. The sounds of a single person singing happy birthday. A police station wrapped up in tape. Red and blue lights strobing against the building. I could literally go on for days. When I came to and looked at Jack, he was looking at me, pale as a ghost. I said, did you just... Yeah, I saw. You know, let's just go check on that pot. The sooner we can pour out that bleach shit, the better, Jack said, with a nervous energy. He was still blaming the fumes from the cleaning supply. But I think we both knew that wasn't the case. We got into the kitchen to find the water was completely boiled out of the pot, leaving a small amount of soot at the bottom of the pan. I turned the burner off, and Jack grabbed the bowl I had placed on the counter, took it outside, and poured it out in the yard. I saw him take a look at the bowl, think for a second, and drop the bowl beside the biohazard he poured on the ground. I can't remember if the instructions specifically said you could do that at this point, but I was too freaked out to care. When Jack came back in, I said, look man, this is stupid. You should just clean this shit up and call it a day. I was scared. I got my glimpse of something paranormal, and I had my fill. Jack looked at me, his eyes almost tearing through me as he spoke. No, Sam, we already got this far. Let's just do the eyeliner thing and say what we need to say. And then when nothing happens, we can go get wasted and put this shit behind us. He was completely different than he was earlier. He was animated and extremely pushy about continuing. Jack, did you see it, T? No. I didn't see a goddamn thing, Sam. This is all fucking bullshit. Hurry up and put this shit on your eyelids and say the thing. In the lurker, you're the secret. But I don't know. I don't think I want to do this anymore. My head was starting to spin. Every alarm bell in my body was telling me to run. Look, I don't know what you saw, but it wasn't anything. The only way you can prove this is all bullshit is by finishing this. When we're done, and we're just standing here like nerds with shit all over our faces, we can go on and forget any of this ever happened. This went on for a few minutes. I tried to share some of what I saw, the absolute fucking depth of it, but he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't say that he saw anything either. Jack was a man on a mission at this point. He threatened to do it alone, make himself the seeker just to prove that I was being a little bitch about it. The instructions state several times to not do it. It never said why, of course. At this point, I was enough of a believer to take that as a threat. And when he started rubbing the soot on his eyelids, I ran up and started doing the same. You're a real motherfucker, dude, I said as I rubbed my index finger, caked in ash over my eyelids, taking care to not get any in my eye. Hey man, I got to show you that whatever that was bullshit. You'll never live this shit down. Jack smirked. Now, let's get this over with. We both stared into the small hallway mirror, and both began saying our own separate pledges. Mine was a compact with what lived in between. worlds to never stop seeking until it is found. Jax was a pledge to help the seeker find his way by rendering his pleas dumb and deaf. An air of extreme seriousness filled the room. My heart was pounding. None of this felt fun anymore. It felt like I had stumbled into a world that I should have stayed well far away from. Then we were both done. Nothing happened. I stood there for a minute. I could feel my face getting flushed with embarrassment. Jack laughed, almost in triumph, and clapped my shoulder. See, Sam? Water, I tell you. I'm gonna wash this shit off now. Jack approached the sink. I let out a sigh, half relief, half disappointment. Yeah, man, this whole thing was a waste of time. I laughed. Got the need to do this shit out of my system, though that's good. Maybe we can do normal shit next Friday. Jack splashed some water on his face. Hey, where do you keep your dish soap? Oh, it's... I trailed off. Sam, dish soap, dish soap, dish soap, dish soap. I-K-N-O-W. I know exactly where it is, but I couldn't place it. It was everywhere and nowhere all at once, and I felt like I knew exactly where it was, but couldn't say. I started frantically opening cabinets, looking in the fridge, the oven, throwing utensils and pans out on the floor. I know where it is, Jack. I know exactly where it is. It's Jack stared at me. His terror couldn't be hidden. Sam, your eyes. What the fuck, dude? Apparently, my pupils were completely dilated. I was drooling and spinning in place, completely frantic about the dish soap. Jack looked around at all the cabinets I had opened, and noticed the only door I left closed was under the sink. He opened the cabinet, and there sat a half-empty bottle of Dawn. As soon as I saw the soap, my thoughts regained composure, and I stood there. Back jawed, there was a solid beat of silence. Complete unbelief at what just happened. But the mess around us betrayed the truth. Jack broke the silence. Sam, what did we do? My voice was much shakier than I had thought, a mix of fear and adrenaline. I don't know, man, but I'm starting to feel weird. There's somewhere I gotta be. I got to go there now. I know exactly where it is, but I don't know. I have no fucking idea what's happening to me, Jack. Jack approached me. I'm feeling weird to do. I gotta take you there. I don't think I can do anything else until we get there. He had a very serious, haunted look on his face. What did you see, Jack? Earlier, what did you see? I saw nothing. Come on, let's go. And with that, within 5 minutes of the conclusion of the ritual, we were off. Nothing else mattered. Neither of us even shut off the sink faucet. It is extremely difficult to convey this feeling I had. I felt so sure of myself and endlessly lost. I wish I knew what Jack was feeling. He had this frantic energy about him that was so unlike how he normally acted. Jack began driving around town, through the neighborhoods. I was a pure menace the entire time. I physically could not shut up. I was chattering and shouting and waving my arms, threatening to take the wheel and drive myself. Jack was going the wrong way. I knew for a pure fact that every turn he made was wrong. And I got angrier each time he made a wrong move. No. You motherfucker, I said, right? Turn fucking right at that stoplight. Are you not listening to me? Are you fucking dumb? I need to get there now, and you're fucking me. You're fucking us. I was spitting and angry, trying desperately to convince Jack to take my direction. I knew in the back of my mind that he was doing exactly what he needed to. Yet I couldn't help it. Jack tried a few times to reason with me, but eventually went quiet and drove, ignoring me as I screamed. This went on for a very, very long time. I want to say we were out for 5 or 6 hours, but it had to have been much shorter than that. My mouth was dry, my voice hoarse, but I just kept going. Eventually, I began berating Jack for getting us so lost that our surroundings were unrecognizable. The amount of turns and back roads put us in an area that I knew neither of us had any clue about. You fucking bastard, look at what you've done. We are SO lost. We can't even make it back. Jack started slowing down the car to a stop. I saw what caught his eye as well. There was a gravel driveway off from the road, leading to a normal-looking house for this area. It looked to be old, a little run down, but still livable. It had peeling yellow paint, and a tarp covering what I assumed would be a broken window on the porch. The porch appeared to be slightly cluttered. A hanging bulb illuminated the entrance. The oddest thing about this house wasn't what it looked like, it's where it was. It appeared to have been cut into the earth instead of built into it. It's hard to explain. The edges didn't feel right. The shadows coming from the front porch, and the moon overhead appeared off as well. Even in my furious state, I couldn't help but notice it. There was a moment of quiet, the only sounds being the wheezing of the engine that has for sure been ran harder than it has in years. Jack asked, "Is this the place, Sam?" "Well, I don't think no. No, you have to keep going down this road with that." Jack slowly pulled into the gravel driveway without another word. I felt anger for a second, but it quickly began to wash away. Whatever fever I had been put under had broke. As soon as Jack parked the car and turned off the engine, my voice hoarse from all of the screaming I had done, my throat dry as a bone, choked out, "Dude, I am so sorry. I have no idea what the fuck that was. It's fine. All part of this game, right?" Jack's eyes were dark. He seemed incredibly serious. "Why, yeah, I guess so." I had managed to scrounge up an old half-drank bottle of water from the back seat. I chugged it. "All right, let's go get what we came for." Jack stepped out of the car. I followed right behind him. I had an initial wave of trepidation over going to somebody's door at what had to be 3 in the morning, but the way we got here made me feel fairly certain nobody would be waiting for us. I looked around when we stepped on the porch. All of the empty soda cans, all of the tools were old. I couldn't tell the time period exactly, but all of it seemed older than I was. 80s, maybe even around the 70s. It felt like this house was suddenly abandoned one day decades ago, and never touched again. Before I had the chance to say anything, Jack was already trying to open the door. He jiggled the knob, and it was locked, of course. The door looked solid and sturdy. It appeared to be a solid slab of wood, painted red, that was completely flat, save for the knob and deadbolt. I tried to look through the windows on the porch, but there were thick curtains drawn over it. Couldn't see a thing inside. Jack started looking around the piles of tools sitting on top of and under a big homemade table that appeared to have been made with old deck boards and cinder blocks. I just now noticed how musty the place smelled. My heart skipped a beat when I felt like I recognized the smell. I couldn't hold that thought for long, as it was followed by a loud crash that startled me even further. I jumped back. Jack had grabbed a shovel and began wailing on the door. Jack, what the fuck, dude? This is what we got to do, right? To get in there, to get what we want. We came here to do this, Sam." Jack explained between swings through gritted teeth. "Well, yeah, but you could have fucking warned me." Jack said nothing. He swung the shovel about a dozen more times before he dropped it, and dropped to the floor, panting. That's when I noticed he had tears running down his face. "Dude, what's up?" "I can get Cindy back." Sam, who looked up at me, quickly wiping his tears away. "I can get Cindy back." Cindy was Jack's older sister. The 3 of us played together all the time when we lived on the same street. It was a few years before, on one of the many beautiful early spring days in 2000. I was sick. Jack was 7 and Cindy was 9. It was afternoon. The sun was just starting to set. It would be time to go home soon. We were out in some woods close to my house, exploring, as we always did. The subject came up about building a treehouse. We all had the best ideas. How there would be a place to play Nintendo, in a full kitchen and bathroom so well, our own place to live without any chores or rules. You know, just fun kid shit. Cindy had climbed a big tree that she claimed was perfect for a treehouse. Jack went up after her, and I began to follow suit. At some point, the two began bickering over something. Nothing at all important. Probably a disagreement over where the beds would go. or what snacks would be stocked. Some meaningless drivel that I would have, completely forgotten had the following not happened. Standing on the branch, Jack pushed Cindy. She fell, screaming the entire way. I never saw her body, but I heard every sound as I clung to the tree in shock. Jack saw the entire event. She sliced her throat on a branch or something on the way down, and she moaned in agony as she drowned in her own blood. Her guttural attempts at screaming slowly died down into a breathy, chuckling noise until there was no sound at all. I got down from the tree and ran home, scared but not quite able to process what just happened. I told them Cindy got hurt. My mom and Jack and Cindy's parents, and probably some others, ran out to the woods. Apparently Jack was still standing on the branch, frozen in shock. Firefighters had to come and get him down. He was catatonic for days after. Jack's mom never forgave him. She abandoned the family and went to live in Texas or something. His dad tried in some capacity, but that sort of pain can't ever truly be healed. He became strict, parenting Jack in a way that felt like it was a punishment for what he did. He only got the Camry and was made to get his driver's license as soon as possible so he could get a job and move out as soon as possible. Entire lives changed forever over one bad move. I'm assuming, because Jack never told him, that he was shown in some way that doing this could somehow let him get his sister back, to possibly undo that argument that occurred 9 years. Back that butterfly affected his entire family to ruin. I said I don't think that would, but stopped myself. What was I about to say? That there's no way to bring back the dead, no way to go back in time. We were currently standing on the porch of a house cut out of time, that I am fairly certain was not there. Who was I to say what could or couldn't be done at this point? Instead, I said we're going to need to get something stronger to bust into. Jack looked up at me and smiled. I pulled him to his feet, and he pulled me into a hug. Thanks, Sam. This is going to work. This will work. You can live longer than forever. If you come in, filled my head, I rubbed my face. My nose was bleeding. Tears were streaming down Jack's face. He hadn't uttered a word. I roused him from whatever trance he was in. Jack, say your piece, and let's fucking go. I want Cindy back. I want Cindy to be alive again. I want what happened to her on March 12, 2002, have never happened. The purple cloud shifted, the soothing voice in my head enticing me, begging me to come closer. Jack's mouth dropped open. His nose started bleeding as well. The voice in my head was becoming too much to bear. Let's go. Jack, come on. No, I need to go in to save her. I need to walk her out of this place. Jack began approaching the threshold of the door. J-A-C-K. I grabbed his shirt and pulled him back. The voice got louder and more frantic. Jack has made the right choice. He's coming in to enjoy the pleasures of eternity. Join him. Join him, join him, join him, join him. Jack fought me off and pushed me to the ground. In going in there, Sam, if you try to stop me, he'll beat the shit out of you. I stood up and wanted so desperately to say something like, then start fighting. Jack can find some way to pull him off the porch and away from me. But all I could manage was a meager bird. My head was spinning and ringing from whatever was trying to get me come in. My body was starting to ache, and my nose was filled with blood. All I could do at that point was watch Jack as he gave me one last mournful glance. He then turned around and walked through the doorway. It was an insane thing to witness. As Jack walked through, that part of him disappeared. He didn't go into the space past the door, but merely vanished as he walked. His head and arms vanished, and his body slowly evaporated into nothing as he continued, until finally, all that was left was a disembodied foot that pulled itself through the doorframe. I had no time to react. The voice was begging me to come in after Jack, to witness the beauty of what he is now experiencing. I turned around and ran off the porch, the voice not getting any lower. It pleaded with me to return, promised that I could be a god in my own universe, that I could change anything I wanted to, if I would just go inside. I ran the opposite direction, feeling like absolute hell. I ran until the voice abruptly cut off. My vision was still blurry. Head pounding, I turned around. The house was gone. I walked down the back road for a few minutes. I grabbed some napkins out of the Camry and cleaned myself up as best as I could. I couldn't drive out of there. Jack took the key with him, wherever he went. I managed to catch a good Samaritan out, driving around with his girlfriend, who were helpful enough to drive me to a gas station within walking distance to my house. I was shocked to find out we were only 15 minutes away from it. It felt like we had been driving around for hours, and they asked me what I was doing out. I lied and said I had been driving around to clear my head, and my car broke down. The couple dropped me off. They gave me their names, but I can't for the life of me remember them. I then took the 10-minute walk back to my house. The first thing I did when I got in was take an OxyContin that my mom had gotten for a wisdom tooth removed. They gave you a bunch of pills back then, so there were a good few left over after she had healed. I then cleaned up the kitchen real quick because we had left it a mess. Mom would have flipped her shit if she got home and saw this, but then I realized she should have been home a long time ago. I looked at the clock on the microwave and felt so nauseous I almost threw up. It was only 7:45. I went to bed and tried to sleep, but it didn't happen. I couldn't imagine what the next day was going to be like. Having to explain to Jack's dad what happened, what could I possibly say? I was racked with guilt. This was my fault. I saw this stupid story online, and in my childishness, wanted to recreate it for no reason. It just so happened to have actually worked. That was another thing I couldn't stop thinking about. Who shared that story? How many of these things actually did what they claimed? The threads after, of people sharing their experiences, were they all true? I couldn't stop thinking about it. I finally rolled out of bed at around 900 a.m., deciding that now was the time to tell a man that the only family he has left is gone. I made some coffee and stepped outside with it to let some cool air hit my face and wake me up a little bit. I stood there for a few minutes, the throb in my head nothing but a dull ache now. When I heard somebody call my name, "Hey Sam, oh God, you look like hell." I turned around and saw who spoke, dropping my arms and spilling what was left of the coffee on the ground. Cindy, all the breath had been sucked out of my body. It was her, Cindy. She had on a blue shirt and a pair of khakis, and was about to step into a car. She was getting ready to head to a shift at Walmart. I-R-U-R-M-H. You're kind of okay? Me out. Do I need to get somebody? Your dad? Cindy, I need to talk to your dad about Jack Hunt. Okay. Hayes in the house? Come on over. Cindy closed the door and walked away from the camera that she was about to get into and walked up to her house, their house. They still lived in on my street, but we moved. We moved too easily. I don't understand. I said Cindy's face had long since twisted into one of concern. Did you hit your head or something? She opened the door to the house they used to live in, but now still live in, and yelled, "Hey Dad, it's Sam. He wants to talk to you about Jack." She ran into the house real quick and hurriedly whispered something to him before she came running back out. Will become something I won't be able to stop. Okay, Hayes coming out. I got to get to that. Cindy ran to get to feeling better, Sam. Got into the same Camry I spent last night screaming at her brother. I was rubbing the coffee mug in my hand. Hard, I was afraid I was going to break it. Jack's dad came walking up to the door, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a telephone in the other. "Jesus, Sam, are you okay?" was the first thing he said to me. I hadn't showered or changed my clothes from the night before. My shirt had quite a bit more blood on the front of it than I had looked considerably doing. Cindy said you may have fallen or something. Do I need to call an ambulance? Richard, it's about Jack. I started to cry. What? I took in a deep breath and let out a massive sob. Jack is gone, Richard. And it's all my fault. I began to full-on sob. It's all my fault. I'm so fucking sorry. Sam, my God. Richard steadied my shoulder with the same hand he was holding the phone. I took another breath and calmed down enough to look up at him. Richard then said, "Who the fuck is Jack?" The last thing I saw before I blacked out was Jack's mom walking out and looking over me, loudly telling Richard to dial 911. I was in the hospital for 3 days. I had a seizure or a psychotic break. I was talking about my best friend named Jack. Somebody who never existed, apparently. Eventually, I caught pretending that he didn't exist either, feigning ignorance about the whole thing. Once they did some scans and saw I was normal, they sent me home. Mom was worried for a bit. But once I got back and I seemed okay, things just moved on. Jack was just gone. Any and all evidence that he was once alive now only exists in my memory. I watched old VHS tapes of myself as a child, ones I knew Jack were in, and he wasn't. Life went on as normal, as it was so surreal, piecing together my life, filling in the gaps of what happened during the times my best friend was supposed to be there. I cried in private, mourning somebody who hadn't ever existed for years. Jack started speaking to me. At first it was something nerves or exhaustion. Over several weeks it got louder and more persistent. Basically, it's Jack's voice telling me that I need to enter the scene with him. That it was the greatest decision of his life. It was worth undoing. So fucking worth it. Jack Thomas needs to come in while the one haven't mentioned. He was my best friend. That there was a closing procedure that needed to be done. One of the people involved in the ritual to cut the connection made to the other side. I had completely forgot about it in the trauma of the weeks after I don't know why it took 15 years to start feeling the effects of not finishing the ritual. The original Creepypasta mentioned how certain star planet alignments would affect your success rate of getting your wish granted. So maybe something like that. I am hoping beyond hope that writing this story will have spurred a memory that they have some old folder on a hard drive of ancient creepypastas saved from the web, and the drive to find creepypasta is among them. I desperately need the guide so I can finish this. Every day I see Jack out of the corner of my eye sometimes. He looks exactly the same as he did the day he vanished in 2009. He is just standing there, staring at me with a serious look on his face. Once I move my eyes toward him, he vanishes. I look the exact same as well. I am 30 now, and have not aged a day past 15. Will I truly live? I don't know if it will be able to survive another month with how things are progressing. My dreams recently have been of Jack, haze naked and surrounded in dazzling purple flame. His eyes burning flames as well. He speaks in a crackling loud voice as if thunder had been given the ability to talk. You see, I lurk, seek the door, seek the scene, and then given glimpses of an untold number of buildings that seem to span on for forever, but in an instant. A Waffle House with all of its windows smashed. Black smoke pouring out from it. A storage shed in somebody's backyard. Old blood covering the door. The sweet, sick stench of a nursing home. Room 2103's door is shut tight. On and on and on and on. Covered in sweat. I wake up feeling like I know where I need to go, but not knowing. Most concerning, however, is a door in my house. It's a door that leads to a small utility. Closet that holds my water heater and a shelf. I have an urge to bust through it. The temptation grows every day. I found myself idly walking into a neighbor's backyard and grabbing a sledgehammer they had left sitting in their garage. I dropped it and ran back to my house, hoping nobody saw me. If I do break the door open, and I am once again faced with the endless, brain-defying void that I saw back in 2009, could I simply ask that it end, that the ritual be over? Like it may not listen, it may pull me inside. and spending all of my free time searching for the original Creepypasta, so I can hopefully end this before it comes to that. I woke up last night in a daze, standing in front of the utility room door with the neighbor's sledgehammer. I'm afraid the temptation to bust open this door. Please share anything you remember about the creepy. I'm afraid I won't have much time left before I do something, but I do end up busting this door open. And it is what I'm afraid of, and it pulls me in. Hopefully this will stay online. My name is Samuel Grady. I exist and am a person.